Today's episode of South African Food Stories is powered by FNB Business. From foot in the door to an unstoppable franchise footprint, let FNB expert industry advisors help you grow and optimize your business. They've got a game plan full of expert-led support and tailored solutions. FNB Business, because help changes everything. An authorized financial services provider and credit provider. When most people think of olive oil, they think Greece, they think Italy and Spain. But what most people don't realize is that some of the world's best olive oil is being made right here in South Africa. What started as a personal health journey for Nicci Wilkinson, sparked by a doctor's advice to include more olive oil in his diet, turned into an all-consuming business of growing, pressing and bottling extra virgin olive oil, and to building a business that values the land and the people on it. From New York to Japan, Rio Largo's oils are prized for distinctive flavor and freshness, the result of hand-picked olives processed straight on the estate with no shortcuts. Today I'm joined by Brenda to unpack what it takes to build a world-class olive oil brand in South Africa and how running a family business shapes every decision, and why local producers deserve our attention, our respect, and a place on our tables. Brenda, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to have you on Food Stories.
Well, this is such an honor. I'm actually quite emotional about that introduction. Thank you very much, Nicci. And it really is, for me, an incredible opportunity to tell the story, because olive oil found us. We didn't look for olive oil. So our story began 20 years ago. Well, we were in Central Africa for 20 years. We went from Johannesburg, and my husband was working for BP, and we went to Malawi, and we had fabulous 7 years of being in Malawi, where my husband was introduced, because of his passion for agriculture, he was introduced to corporate agriculture by Lonro, and we stayed there for 7 years. And at the end of the 7 years, we were moved to Zambia, where he worked for an American company called Dunavant. And we ended up on a farm, and I was a true Johannesburg girl, city girl, and my husband took me off to this farm 4 hours from any city in Zambia, and I loved it. And having this beautiful introduction to farming, which was the biggest farm in Africa at the time.
What were you farming?
There was maize, wheat, soya.
So commercial farming?
Totally commercial farming, yes, but beautiful. And we then left and came back to South Africa when our daughters went to university in Stellenbosch. They had been boarders in South Africa, in Grahamstown, and we decided it was time to be with them when they were doing their university education. And my husband, at the same time when we got back, we had a farm in the Eastern Cape, which we were heading towards. And he saw a doctor, he's a private pilot, and he had to have a medical, and the doctor said to him, you should have more olive oil in your diet. You've got high cholesterol and high blood pressure. And I think this olive oil was in the back of his mind when he was having a look. He found this farm outside Worcester, which is called Rio Largo, and Rio Largo is wide river in Portuguese. And we had no idea that Rio Largo was going to become the brand that it was. It's not an easy name, but it does mean wide river, and we're on the Breede River outside Worcester. But he found this farm, and because he's a chartered accountant, he did the numbers, and his passion for agriculture took us onto this beautiful property, and we thought, how difficult could this be? We've got vines and we've got olive trees, and it's very different farming from what we were doing in Zambia. And I was teaching while Nick was in Zambia, while we were on the farm. And Nick produced this olive oil in 2010 in the August, and he took it to the SA Olive competition. And they tasted this olive oil, and they said they had never tasted something so sensational, and they gave us a double gold award. It meant nothing to anybody. But we thought, well, if we've got this double gold award, everybody's going to notice this olive oil, and they're going to rush to the gate and say, we want it. Because I don't know if you remember the wine Meerlust.
Yes.
And it got this wonderful award. Must have been in this few years before 2010. And everybody who wanted a good wine was choosing Meerlust. And I thought we were the Meerlust of olive oils, but nobody else understood that. And so I said to Nick, we had 100,000 litres. I said, why is nobody coming to buy it? And he said, because they don't know about us. So being a teacher, I took a little basket and I went off to Cape Town. And my first opportunity was to go to the hotel groups. And they said to me, well, why would I choose your olive oil?
Exactly.
I mean, we have olive oils from, exactly as you said, Greece and Italy. What is the South African producer doing? And we asked them to taste it. And in tasting it, people started to realize that there was an incredible difference in the olive oils that were being imported and the olive oils that we were producing. So we got a foot in the door on taste alone. And then there were a couple of incidents in this journey, because Nick was great at what he did. And the farm it's a beautiful farm with beautiful people that really help us to create this product. So that was all under control. But the sales were a completely different story. And a lot of farmers, I have to put this in, a lot of good producers of fabulous products are really battling to sell it to the right consumer, because they are doing what they do well.
Yeah.
They're farming and they're producing the product. But sales and marketing is a very, very different ball game. And fortunately, I loved it. And fortunately, Nick gave me a lot of string to go and find my place. So I met a couple of people that I would love to introduce now to say they put us on the map. They helped put us on the map. One was Sue Baker, and I met her in 2010 at an airport in Port Elizabeth. And she overheard me speaking to another gentleman who was a foreigner. And she said to me, oh, my goodness, what are you doing that you're now in South Africa? Because she heard that I was in Zambia. And I said, we've bought an olive estate. And she said, I love that olive oil. Please. And she took it on at Wild Peacock, and they distributed it in the Western Cape. Very powerful and fantastic support. A couple of months later, I don't know if you remember, there was a carte blanche expose.
I do.
Of bad olive oils, and particularly in the Sandton area. So I thought, well, that's my place. So on a Sunday morning, I took my olive oil and I went to the butcher's grill. And I said, I've got a wonderful olive oil. And what would he be? The maitre d'? At the door. And he said to me, Karl Heinz, and he said to me, are you desperate to sell this? And I was like, no. And he said, but you don't sell on a Sunday. And I said, well, it's olive oil and it's a restaurant product, and we have a great product, and I wasn't busy today and you're open.
Exactly. So what's the problem?
Being naive, I thought this was okay. And he said to me, Brenda, this is not the way you do it. And he phoned up Kirsten and from La Marina, and he said, Kirsten, I have this lady, she desperately needs you, and you need to taste her olive oil. So on the Tuesday, on the way to the airport, back to the farm, I drove past and they tasted the oil, and Kirsten brought everybody in from the business and said, we're going to sell this olive oil, it's beautiful. And she put us on the map in the Gauteng area. Incredible. So we had that incredible support. And then I used to go to the Adele Searle lunch club, which, because I didn't know anybody in Cape Town, and I was introduced to all those lovely women there, and they had a little Christmas market at the end of the year, and I had my olive oil out there, and Annette Kessler, who was the editor of Fair Lady and now runs this incredible program called Show Cook, she was there, and she tasted the olive oil, and she said, darling, I'd like to meet you again in January. And Annette Kessler took on this olive oil to Show Cook, which is 27 hotel groups right around the country, and as well as reaching for young stars, which is introducing the olive oil to young chefs. It is an incredible opportunity, and I really do think elevated our brand, because people, with the people behind it, giving it the credibility, people started to take it more seriously. Part of that is still at the background was Nick working really, really hard. He understood farming, and he understood the sums involved in farming. And we took our olive oils to different competitions. And our first competition that we sent it to was New York. And we, not in the first year, but we got it in, I think, the second year, we got best in class. Now, for a little South African producer to be on the stage as best in class in New York.
It's enormous.
Was enormous. And it's really not about the ego. It was really for Nick to say, I can do this. This is something that I can do well, and we'll do this well. And it also gave us the opportunity to say, we're doing our best on this side. Other people are recognizing that. So maybe you should be buying it too. So it gave us a lot of credibility in the industry.
So you've given us this incredible highlight reel. It seems every door opened. It seemed the path was clear, but I know that's not true, because in every business, especially in farming, there are roadblocks and hiccups and heartbreaks along the way. What were your biggest barriers to getting over those blocks? Let's go right back to the beginning.
Right back to the beginning. I think, to be very honest with you, I was very naive. I was very naive about how fraudulent this product could be. I really had no idea. And how difficult it was to get past that fraudulent oil and to say to somebody, please try this, we're doing it the right way. But it's a price comparison. So people look at it and they go, but I can get it at that price. Why is your oil so much more expensive?
When you say fraudulent, let's really unpack that. Are people mixing olive oil with other oils and selling it as olive oil? We know there are.
There's an incredible book, and I read it at the end of 2011, and it's Tom Mueller, and he wrote The Scandalous World of Extra Virgin Olive Oil, the sublime and scandalous world of extra virgin olive oil. It's 241 pages. And that's the extent of the fraud. So he is a journalist, and he was asked to write an article about extra virgin olive oil. And he started to delve deeper and realized that there is so much going on. And I think it's to do with production. I think it's to do with storage. And I think it's to do with selling. So if you look at South African producers, and there are a number of wonderful, wonderful producers in South Africa, all trying hard to do the right thing. We have a tree. It produces olives. We take the olives off, sometimes mechanically, sometimes by hand, which we do at Rio Largo. It's all hand-picked. We crush those olives. They're crushed with the skin, with the pips. And the juice of that is the olive oil that we share. And in that process, there's so many things that can go wrong. So if they pick the olives too late, or if they pick the olives and they don't process them in time, or if they process the olives all perfectly, then they store it in poor storage conditions. All of these factors play a role. And I liken the process of extra virgin olive oil to squeezing an orange, to getting fresh orange juice. I like the analogy of extra virgin olive oil being a fresh juice, because it is a fruit and it is crushed, and we want it to be as fresh as possible, which a lot of people do not understand. So if we take an orange, we pick the orange, we squeeze the orange, and the juice of that orange is what we understand compared to a cordial. Right. There's all the benefits, there's the taste profile, and there's the health benefits of a fresh orange juice. On the other hand of the scale, we have a cordial, which is an orange flavored juice, but it hasn't got any freshness and any health benefit. If anything, less so. An extra virgin olive oil that is fresh has a harvest date and has a best before date. So we, by the International Olive Council, which is in Spain, we get 2 years, are we listening, from date of picking. So from date of harvest to our best before date. Now, an unscrupulous salesperson would actually pack that oil, no matter how old it is, and when it's packed, say, I've given you 2 years from that date. And thereby lies in the problem. So many oils are rancid, or they are defective because of the way they've been stored, or it's too old. And we don't know the difference, because so many of the oils that are on the supermarket shelves, and I say it with respect because a lot of people really don't know enough about the product and they really don't know it should be fresh.
Would it be fair to say a lot of imported product is rancid because it's been sitting on a ship for 3 months and can't tell?
I think it's a generalization and we don't want to put a place that is terribly scary to say that all oils that are imported are rancid. But I think that if people understand that South African oils that have been tested really are the oil to choose before you look at the imports. So I don't know if you want to show the on the screen, there is a sticker that is given to us by the SA Olive Association. It's a green sticker.
There we go.
Now that green sticker for me is the most important sticker, and we should have not green stickers, but we should have stickers of compliance on cheese, on milk, on bread, on so many of the products that we put into our bodies, thinking that we're taking this product on for the health of our body, for the sake of our body's health. And actually what we're buying is really not meant to be consumed at all. So what happens with the SA Olive Association, it's a voluntary association, and they test all your oils of South African producers. I mean, imagine how incredible this program is. They take all the oils from all the producers, they test them, blind taste them. So you get a chemical analysis on an independent laboratory and you get a blind tasting of that oil. If the oil conforms to all those standards, we're allowed to put that sticker onto any receptacle that we sell as Rio Largo. Now, if a consumer understands the value of that, the first point of call is to look for that green sticker. On it, you will find the SA Olive seal of compliance and a harvest date, and then you should have 2 years within that harvest date for you to embrace that oil.
So you do a lot of education with chefs. You make yes. And restaurant margins, food producing margins are tiny. There's almost no wiggle room, because the consumer wants the best for less. So chefs and manufacturers are pretty much, their hands are tied. Do you think the education process is working? Do you think you are adequately getting through to the people who make the products why they should be supporting a well-made product?
I always say to the chefs, we should have your procurement manager here. Because there is a bottom line, and a procurement manager is not hearing my story. And my procurement manager is also not tasting the oils, but he is seeing the bottom line and saying, this is just olive oil. Why aren't you buying it at this price from these people? And it's a very complicated process. And I think that for many of us, even homeowners, home consumers, are faced with this dilemma of oils are expensive, especially extra virgin olive oil. And the problem has become as well is that we're defined by global markets. And this is where my husband, Nick, comes into the picture because he's better at this than me. But that price is determined by the global market. So 2 years ago, there was no supply. There was a drought in Spain and there was an olive fly in Italy. And there literally was no oil. And we had some interesting times. We had an importer from America, and I had gone to Summer Fancy Foods, which is an amazing platform. And every time I heard that he was coming down the aisle, I would stand up tall and say, I'm here, wouldn't you like to taste my oil? And he would say, I'm very busy. And I'd go, okay, another year gone. But he contacted us, and he flew into South Africa and came onto the farm and said, I'd like to buy your entire crop.
Wow.
That's how short supply they were. And the prices were eye-watering. Obviously, we can't do that because we have a supply chain and we have to keep our supply going. And if you lose all of that supply chain, what happens the following year? Which has happened now. Spain is back in production. Italy's back in production. So we are looking at a reduction in the cost of olive oil going forward, depending on the market and how we play it. It's very hard to do a price comparison with olive oil, but I think if you take it as well to cordial or fresh juice or a commercial loaf of bread to a home baked or a bakery, deli baked stone sourdough, you'll get the idea. And I think that when consumers are faced with low prices everywhere, all the advertising is done on not good production, but I'm going to give you the lowest price. Come to me for the lowest price, 2 for the price of 1. And the consumer is under pressure. So they're going to try and go for that low price. What they're not understanding is if you're not putting the right olive oil, if you're not using the right olive oil, your doctor's bills are going to be far higher.
Yes, I want to talk more about the benefits of real olive oil, because I think this, we're talking business and we'll get back to business. There's so many questions around that, but why is it so important to put something with such high polyphenols in? I mean, everyone talks about the Mediterranean diet and why it is so important for your long-term health and your longevity, and everyone's going on about, we want to live to 100, and if you look at people in the Mediterranean countries, they are big consumers of real olive oil. I mean, you won't find an Italian mama eating canola oil, and that's another thing. It's but you can't cook with it, and it has this flash pot. Nonsense stories. It's nonsense stories. You can cook anything in olive oil at any heat. I mean, if you're going to deep fry something, that's just a whole other story. You should be using lard or butter, but that's another story for another day. So how do we really get that education across? I think the average consumer understands that olive oil is good for you, but do they understand how it really works in the body? And I think, how are you communicating that? Today's episode of South African Food Stories is powered by FNB Business. Delivering, dining, or dishing, FNB provides the game-changing financial strategies and tailored business banking solutions to help hospitality businesses grow faster and smarter. FNB Business help changes everything, an authorized financial services provider and credit provider.
It is a very real problem. And when I'm in the supermarket and I'm behind people and they're buying the non-good olive oil, it's very tempting for me. Well, I can't, but I would love to just say to them, do you really know what you are buying here? And oftentimes the sadness of this is that they're wasting their money, because they're buying it in good faith that they want to help their family be healthy. It's fabulous. I mean, the health benefits, we know because of the Mediterranean diet. It lowers blood pressure. It lowers cholesterol. It's very good for preventing the prostate and the breast cancers. These are all documented, and high polyphenols. It's almost like taking ibuprofen. That it's anti-inflammatory, and it is so incredible for your health. But if you're not buying the real deal, then that money is wasted because it's just a fake oil.
Okay, so just to go a little bit deeper into other oils. And please feel free to tell. We want the facts.
Just my story. Yeah.
Okay. How do you extract oil out of a seed? What happens? People go, but sunflower oil is good for you and it's heart healthy, which is not true. It's really not true. And the evidence, maybe it was thought to be true 30 years ago. It was an assumption. But as we've evolved and science has learnt and evolved and we found out more, we've learned that seed oils, especially the sort of the ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 isn't ideal, isn't as healthy for you as it was once thought to be. How do you get oil out of a seed as opposed to how do you get it out of an olive? And this is where the rubber hits the road for me.
And you said so beautifully. Honestly, Nicci, the truth is that there's nothing added, nothing taken away when we crush that olive. There's no heat involved, and there's actually no chemical at all involved. We do wash the olives, and the water is then separated, but there's nothing added, nothing taken away. It's a completely natural product. Whereas in seed oils, they have very high heat involved and hexane as a chemical. Now, I've never delved terribly deeply in it because of what I read in the book with Tom Mueller, but hexane is the same chemical that they use to extract stains in dry cleaning. So for me, it's a solvent. And so for me, it's really difficult to comprehend that we do everything with those oils. If you look at any olive oil producer, they don't have any other oils in their home. We will use butter, ghee, or we will use extra virgin olive oil. Makes a really delicious roast potato, I can tell you. So we never question the smoking point. We make French fries in our olive oil. They are absolutely delicious. And you can reuse that oil, which is also something that people don't understand. Up to 7 times you can, and you look at the oil, you filter it, you use it again for the same. I only use it with my French fries. And then I go, okay, Brenda, you have thousands of liters in your tank. Go and get fresh oil. But it's a very versatile product. And I think that it's a flavorant. And we mustn't forget that a seed oil is not a flavorant. And so you can ruin a beautiful piece of meat or chicken or fish by using the wrong oil with it. And I feel that is something that we still need to explore amongst the chefs, amongst the home consumers, is how valuable the taste profile is using extra virgin olive oil. And extra virgin olive oil comes in different flavor profiles. So you can get a very intense olive oil, which is pungent and gives you a nice cough at the back of your pepperiness, or you can get a more medium olive oil, and you can get a very delicate olive oil, which is more buttery. And that would also, you would use those different olive oils dependent on what you're cooking. And for us, we have chosen a blend of olives. So I can also quickly go into the different olive cultivars, which make a difference to the profile. We have 4, there are, I don't know how many hundreds of different cultivars worldwide, but at Rio Largo, we have 4 different cultivars. We have Licino, Caratina, Frantoia, and FS17, which is a fabulosa. Now, those all have a different profile. And a Caratina is a very pungent cultivar. So its uses for us are very limited. But what Nick does, and that's where his strength comes in, is that he blends those different flavor profiles to an award-winning taste. And that is the same taste you get all year with Rio Largo. So there's no difference.
Consistency.
Consistent. You won't get a pungent oil this week and then next week or next month you get a delicate oil. We keep the same profile for the entire harvest. Very much like a winemaker.
I was going to say, it sounds like winemaking.
Winemaking, yeah. It's very like that.
So, I mean, we spoke about the cost and the health benefit and how it's potentially life-saving if you follow a healthy diet. How do we get olive oil to people who can't afford it? How is that? Do you see that ever happening?
We at Rio Largo have tried because packaging, I mean, I can spend hours on packaging and what I've learned. We used to have a brown bottle with a little label on it, and yeah, it was attractive and people bought it for the oil. But my very funniest thing is I went to a market the other day and we had our chili oil in a brown bottle with a very simple chili label on it. And we had the beautiful new bottles that we've got out. And the lady would say, oh, I love this chili oil. I'm going to give it to my husband for his birthday present, or give it to my husband. And then she'd say, but does it come in the pretty bottle? And I went, no, not yet. And she went, oh, then I'll take the other bottle. So I realized that as much as we're trying to limit the profile of packaging to the consumer, we are faced with a lot of, I think, very different consumer ideals.
Yes.
So at Rio Largo, we have tried to reduce the packaging with our reusable, whereby we use bag-in-box. And bag-in-box has proven over the years, we've been doing it for 15 years.
What spurred the idea for you to create the canister with the foil lining? Because, I mean, from a transport and weight point of view, it makes all kinds of sense. From a recycling point of view, it makes all kinds of sense. But olive oil is incredibly light sensitive. And if you don't expose it to air and light, it lasts longer, firstly, and you don't get rancid oil at the rate that you would normally. So what inspired this? And then of course, how beautiful it is.
Well, we had a lot of fun. We were looking at packaging options because 500 mils in a bottle, for the price that it is only 2 cups.
Yeah.
So I, in my own kitchen, was running out of oil regularly, and I could just walk down to the shed and fill it up again. And I said to Nick, but that means that my consumer is having to make that choice all the time. Why don't we try and put more oil into their receptacles? So we looked at tins, and I didn't like the lids, the container lids. It was always a bit messy for me. And there was sediment at the bottom of the tin, so I wasn't really happy with the tin. And we looked at big bottles, and that's hard for a consumer to store and hard for a consumer to pour with.
Decant, yeah.
So we went to this gentleman, Barry, and we looked at the bag and box. Actually, I'll tell you, Nicci, the Italian producer who designed our machine. So we got new machinery in 2011, we got new machinery in. And he sat on his box. He couldn't speak a word of English. And he taught Nick how to use the machines. Mm-hmm. And beautiful machines, Giorgio Mori. And he sat on his little crate and he said to me, bag and box. And I was like, no, it hasn't got a good reputation in South Africa.
Wine.
Box wine. But we tried it, and it was incredible because we took our oil that was in the bag and box and we took it to a market at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. In fact, it was the end of the second year. And Nick tried the oil, and it wasn't as fresh, but the flavor profile was still there. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we believed in it. Now in the European countries, it's very, very popular because no air, no light. And as you say, it's a great way of storing the olive oil.
So you transitioned from the bag in the box wine version, to a completely different concept. I'm sure there's nobody else who does it this way.
Yet.
And they'll copy you. You haven't patented, have you?
Well, it is, but it's easy to change. Yeah. We've learned that it's easy to share what we do.
So I love this.
Yeah.
So it does look like the box wine, but it's so much more economical. And this is so beautiful. And where do you get your ideas for the artwork?
Oh, we have wonderful designers. And if I like your shirt, I should take a photograph and I say to my designer, Shannon, we need a new designer. And she comes up with something.
By all means. Yeah. By all means. I'd love to be an inspiration.
We have had a lot of fun with our designs. We had the most amazing, I'll help you with that now. Mm-hmm. We had the most amazing start with a gentleman an artist called Frans Groenewald, who works out of Lawrenceford. Unfortunately, he's had a stroke. And his first designs for us was freedom of the press. And it was a time in 2011 when there was a lot of drama about the freedom of the press in our media. And he designed this incredibly funny design on our labels. And so we got out there because of the fun that we had on our different labels. So we've had fun, but at the bottom line is we're trying to get people to understand the product. And that's really, and our slogan is, try it, you'll love it. So back to this one is we're trying to take the packaging costs to a bare minimum. You would have the decanter and you just order the bags. Right. And I do have to say to you that I have taken my car to be cleaned with bags that are filled and people have thought it was wine.
Oh my goodness.
Wanted to take it. So it is a difficult one, but it works it's very successful, the bag and box. Yeah.
So, you have been doing this since 2010.
Yes.
And it feels like a lifetime, but in truth, it's 15 years. You've gone from not producing olive oils to producing some of the best olive oil in the world. Have you ever stopped to think about that? It's a flash in time that you've gone from zero to hero. And that is something you need to stop and think about because it's enormous to even own the market in the way that you do. But what advice would you give to somebody who wants to go into any form of specific niche farming in this day and age in the Cape? What would you say to them? Where would you start?
I think the blessing for me was married to Nick, who's a chartered accountant. I think to understand the debits and the credits were very, very valuable. To understand the value of the product and to be a little naive. We thought we were the only people making olive oil for a long time until we realized that there was competition globally. We walked into Anuga, which is an enormous food show in Germany. And Nick said, and there's one, let's just describe it as a rugby field. Yeah. And there's little 3x1 booths of olive oil and just a rugby field filled with different olive oils. Oof. And Nick turned around and he said to me, would we have gone into this if we'd known there were so many oils available? And I said, but just look how many people there are. They just need to buy one bottle each and we've done, So I think you've just got to be a little bit practical, a little bit humorous, a little bit, I think there are lots of things to go into, and I think it's for another project as well, is to talk about South African production and the challenges we face in production. One of the things that I really feel is that the consumer is not being given the right information, and we've got a huge population that really needs to know about the production that the people are doing on the farms. All the hard work. We're faced with enormous challenges, but you get over it, and I think you've just got to look at the big picture and say, share the olive oil, just share the product and keep going.
And if you have a passion, you'll find the way.
We do, and I think if you believe in it, people do get the picture eventually. I don't know. It's hard for me to say it because I don't know what our success was attributed to. I think making a great product and just being out there.
And never say die.
Never say die. Never say die. No. And then change. What is the consumer looking for?
Yeah.
And so, yes, pretty packaging was not always on my list, but it did help us, So,
what steps have you taken as a business to focus on community upliftment and sustainability, especially in your area?
It's very, very important to us. We have almost a family, well, it is a family of our staff. Many of them have lived there and grown up there and married within the valley. So it's a very small valley in the Breede called Scherpenheuvel. And with our family, we really do try to uplift them wherever we can. So our main gentleman, Jonathan, we sent him off for courses to help with the production of the olive oil. And he could run that shed as well as Nick could. Nick is there every day because it's just his passion and he loves making it. Nick will go in, just as an aside, go into the shed, and it's a long day. It's long, it's winter, long hours, it's cold. And he goes into the shed at first light when they've picked the olives, and he leaves the shed at when the olive machines have been washed for the day. And he'll come back and say, Bren, I made such beautiful oil today. And I'll go, oh, that's so lovely. Every day is different for him.
Yeah.
But getting back to his staff, we rely totally on our staff. So we want to uplift each one of them. There are different areas for our women. We've gotten them involved in making soaps, they love making the soap with the oils that we have that are not, that are soap oils. And with all of our staff that are there, if we find that they're in a particular area that they're achieving, then we'll put them onto a course. So if they really want to be good at their tractor driving, then we'll take them for extra tractor driving courses. And we are very aware of that. Also part of Westgrow and the agricultural department of Western Cape, they have lots of courses, and we've taken our staff to every course that we can apply for.
So we met in and around COVID. And COVID was a terrifying time for retail, for the restaurant industry, and especially for farming. How did you sustain your entire organization through that period?
A very interesting question, and a very difficult time, and a time that I'm incredibly proud of having a chartered accountant husband with a very hard touch on finances. We never had to, he was so well organized in his finances that we never had to worry. We could pay every staff member full salary and keep going for the entire time of COVID when people were looking for help. And I was very, very proud of him for that.
Yeah, it was a time when a lot of businesses fell over because they're just not astute when it comes to
Yes, but you must also remember that we were an essential service, so we were allowed to still sell. So it wasn't as wonderful. We couldn't do any extra exports or any of those, but we did supply the few restaurants that were still going, and we did still supply our oil. But it was a very interesting time for all of us. And I think it was a time that Rio Largo changed its dimension because our packaging is pretty. People were very depressed, and we went online in a big way. And it's an easy product to ship online, and people loved ordering it. And so our consumer base really grew during COVID because people were looking at it. Yeah.
And that speaks to what you mentioned earlier. It's all very well having a passion to grow something, but if you don't understand how to get it to market, no one's going to know you exist. So how do you get people who are passionate producers and passionate growers to understand that either they or they have to get someone into their business who can market for them?
I think that for a lot of producers, I often feel that those little markets that are held are godsends to them. And you have a Karma's market, for instance, that takes a small producer, gives them the platform, huge amount of free to come through those markets, and somebody notices you somewhere. And I think that a lot of it is obviously cost. And for Nick, I wasn't a cost because my passion coming from a teaching background was go and tell everybody about it. So, and he was very generous in allowing me to travel and to be able to take this product out there and see what we could do. But I do realize that it's a huge problem for people. And so many, there's another story of this is people were making fabulous oils and not selling them. And it was so sad for me. And then I would say, no, come, I'll take your oil with me to Italy. Or I'll take your oil with me to America. And then I used to put their oils in my suitcase and then I used to take them across. But in the end, I think that it became too complicated as to whose oil you were selling. Sometimes I wish I didn't own my own farm because then I would sell South African olive oil because I believe so strongly in what we produce in this country at the cost that we produce it at. But I'm now Mrs. Rio Largo.
Yes, yes.
Fortunately.
How do we get chefs to move olive oil from the table and into them and make it an exciting part of a menu?
Again, a cost because they've got a procurement manager, as we spoke before. But if they understood, if we get them to actually use the product, which is where Show Cook has been so valuable. In Show Cook, it's a competition where the head chefs mentor the young chefs. And in this program, they have to use the sponsored products. So they have to use Rio Largo. And in so using it, they realize the flavor profile and the versatility of this product. And I think it's just by getting them accustomed to that, as long as the procurement manager is on board.
Yes. What is the next step for Rio Largo? Where do you see yourself being in the next 5 years?
We're quite happy, really, where we are, to be honest with you. I think there is expansion on the cards for our farm, and let's see where that takes us. We've got a little nursery where we're trying different olive cultivars to see which we could increase our cultivars with. We'll see which ones are good at growing in the area, so we're getting to see those. Water rights are a big problem. So let's see. We'll work at it. But in the meantime, we have fun. I've traveled the globe. I have to say to you that the Department of Trade and Industry in this country, Westgrow, have been incredibly supportive to small producers. And I have been to Russia. I've been to Peru. I've been to where else have I been? All across the globe. Japan often. We have lovely consumers in Japan, suppliers in Japan. America, we've been a couple of times, Canada. So it really has taken me globally. And also going global with this product has put my feet on the ground that for our price points and for our quality, we offer the consumer here a really great product.
What a legend. Thank you so much, Brenda. What a beautiful story.
Thank you, Nicci, really. Thank you very, very much.
A huge thank you to our sponsors, FNB Business, the help behind unstoppable businesses. Ready to up your food, beverage and hospitality business game. Whether you're catering or running a hotel, FNB has a cash flow game plan that can help streamline your business. FNB Business help changes everything. An authorized financial services provider and credit provider.